actually in all of this is Church Road. It's obviously another biblical road name.
Yeah.
So all the way around the Olympics 2012 site, which you could call Zion if you go with the logo, is biblical road names surrounding the whole site. There's not one road name that's not biblical. So you start looking at that and you think, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Because this site was supposedly a fluke that they found this, and what we're looking at is something that is clearly quite well planned. So if you move into, like, for instance, there's one road here that's called is the East Cross route is called the A12. It's another road name for it. And if I move into, say, for instance, hieroglyphics for a start, hieroglyphics back in the days of ancient Egypt, they were seen as talismans in that a particular hieroglyphic didn't mean like one letter, like a H. It meant a multitude of emotions. It meant a multitude of meanings. And it basically, it drew in the powers of the stars. That's what a hieroglyph was. It was a talisman.
Yeah.
It wasn't a direct translation. So, like, for instance, when they do a direct translation of the Rosetta Stone, you can't translate hieroglyphics into H, A's, and Z's and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So basically, if you think of this idea of hieroglyphics as talismans, power of the stars embedded in this symbol, if you want to call it that, and then everyone assumes that the English language moved on from that, and that our letters just meant letters, just to spell words out, and that there weren't symbols at all. But the fact is that if you look into the idea that the power control in Egypt never died out, and they've been endemic to the power structure from the very start, the letters on the English alphabet are just as much hieroglyphs as the hieroglyphics were, the talismans.
I agree.
So
yeah.
If you look at the letter A, for instance, you've got a pyramid with a capstone, a capital letter A.
Yeah.
And then if you look at an S, you've got a snake. And then if you've got like a dollar sign, you've got a snake rising up what could be a kundalini or, a DNA coil, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But basically these letters have got meanings behind them. And so this main road that cuts through the Olympics 2012 site, which is called the East Cross Road, is also known as the A12 road. Now there's hundreds of A roads in Britain. And so what are the chances that of all the roads that cross through it were an A12 road, a Pyramid 12 road? Do you see where I'm coming from with it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Very interesting.
It's pretty strange that one road, this is what I'm saying, coincidences, it's a load of rubbish that this is coincidence. It's not coincidence whatsoever.
No.
And then you look into the situation of where it's situated in London and Eastern London, and you'll find that it's in two areas. It's separated between Leighton and Leytonstone. And I don't know if you're aware of what a ley line is, but basically...
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, if you look into this, the Olympic site is bang on where two lane lines cross over. So we're on about something that's connected to the energy grid of, the world, like the lifeblood of the earth, if you want to call it that.
Nice.
Interestingly enough, before when they commenced work on the Olympics 2012 site as well, I mean, I got this information off a chap on a message board, but he basically said that they'd organised a massive rave on the Olympic 2012 site, in which no doubt there's a lot of government-sponsored drugs out there and a lot of energy being given off. If you think about these energy lines, and they're inviting people to have raves on these sites, alongside holding some of the biggest competitions in the world ever, think about what's happening with all that energy. Where is that going? It's probably being fed into the system somewhere. And I think that's I mean, there's a lot of, for instance, as far as UFOs are concerned and stuff like that, if you look into UFO sightings and stuff, a lot of them can be attributed to being near ley lines and stuff. Because obviously a UFO isn't necessarily something that's definitely fixed in our particular 3D world. Something that could be obviously of another dimension of sorts.
Yeah.
But basically, you've got this Zion street map that's fully biblical in every way. And you then decide, I decided to pick up the Bible. I don't normally pick up the Bible, I'm not that type of person. But basically picked up and went to the book of Mark. And I decided to go to the... chapter 11, verse 11. The old 11:11.
Yeah.
We got this passage here. Then Jesus went into Jerusalem and into the temple and looked around at everything. Since it was already late, he went out with his 12 disciples to Bethany. So we've got a mention of Jesus entering Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Which is obviously Zion's the New Jerusalem. And it says that since it was already late, he went out with his 12 disciples to Bethany. Right next to the Olympics 2012 site, down a Roman road is a place called Bethnal Green. Right next to the Olympics 2012 site, down a Roman road, is a place called Bethnal Green. Bethnal Green, Bethany, sounds the same, pretty close, not too far off.
Yeah.
Bethnal Green is 3.3 miles, 33 degree Masons and everything, 3.3 miles from Charing Cross, the centre of London.
Yeah.
So symbolic again, numerology and everything that goes with it.
Of course, and I don't know if you've heard, but if we look at the research of Ralph Ellis, he talks that Mary Magdalene might have been Mary of Bethany. There's a whole connection between
Right.
Bethany and the family of Jesus, if you will, or
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, with the whole idea of the Dan Brown bloodline and the Priory of Sion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, I'll get onto that shortly, but that's all part of the plan. That's all part of what's intended here. They wanted to unseat the public with the idea that there's a lost bloodline of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Which is, pretty scary. To top it off, but on a funny note, have you heard of EastEnders before?
Come again? Say it again.
EastEnders, the English soap opera.
No, I have not. No.
No, right. It's a popular thing that most of, I'd say 90% of the population probably watch it. Unfortunately,
Really?
It's those typical soap operas, and if you watch the intro sequence to that, basically behind the EastEnders logo, where on this intro sequence, is the Olympics 2012 site. So basically, this thing that's making everyone forget about what's going on around them, that's distracting them, providing them with rubbish stories and terrible plot lines and everything, stopping people from thinking, is symbolically showing this area on the TV screen every night of the week.
Interesting.
Quite
Very
weird.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, I mean, now I can get onto. I think I've set a good standing for this whole idea of Zion and this biblical event of sorts.
You know what I think we should do like this, Rik. I think that we should take a break right here, actually, because this has been basically an hour-long preface here, and obviously I've got tons of questions and comments, but
of course, yeah.
I definitely want to just let you kind of lay out what you have here, so to speak, and see where this leads us. So I'm going to ask you, Rik, to just basically continue on the trail that you ended in our first segment, if you will.
Okay. Right, well, obviously we've laid out a ground plan with a street map of, the Zion Olympics in 2012, like biblical road names left, right and centre, symbology and symbols and everything, it's all over the place. So I sat down and I started thinking to myself, so what is going to happen? Obviously this is something that's clearly been in the making for, I'd presume that those roads have been named them roads for over 100 years, because the street map hasn't changed in that time. And so what I started looking into was the idea of the Trinity, because obviously the pyramid numerology and everything gets involved in all of this, and obviously I think there's a lot to be answered for in there. And so obviously the precession of the equinoxes is a 26,000 year cycle, in which a roughly 26,000 year cycle, and takes just over 2,000 years to transition into a new age. Obviously 26,000 years through 12 signs of the zodiac, and that's about 2,100 for a new age. And obviously with the dawn of Christianity under Jesus, we entered the age of Pisces, which was symbolized by a fish. And prior to that, under the age of Aries, we were symbolically represented with Moses and his ram's horn. So, and we're reportedly moving into the 11th astrological sign of Aquarius, which is the water bearer. And so you start looking into religion as a whole, and you realise that every time that there's, one of these kind of, transition of the ages, if you want to call it that, there's almost like a new Trinity event, which finds itself, radically shaping the landscape. So, for instance, the last Trinity event we had essentially was the Jesus, Joseph, and Mary, who had been touched by the angel Gabriel Trinity. And obviously, in Christianity as a whole, you've got the Holy Trinity, which is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is symbolic again for the angel Gabriel. Hindu religion, we've got Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. The Jewish Trinity, which essentially not as personified, but was Moses, Ark of the Covenant, and the Temple. And then obviously moving into the human body, we've got spirit, body, and soul. We've got it all. But the fundamental trinity of the ages, like that started it all, was the Osiris, Isis, and Horus connection.